Oh, yeah.
I'd like to call to order a meeting of the Healdsburg City Council for March 2nd, 2026. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Higley. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Herod.
Here. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move to the approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. There was no closed session to report on, so we'll move on to announcements and presentations. Our first presentation is a proclamation recognizing March 26th as Red Cross Month with Councilmember Evelyn Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. So proclamation of the City Council of the City of Healdsburg recognizing March 2026 as American Red Cross Month in the City of Healdsburg. Whereas this March, we celebrate American Red Cross Month by honoring our neighbors who make its humanitarian mission possible in Healdsburg. And every day, their acts of kindness change lives, bring relief, comfort, and hope that help can't wait. And this compassionate spirit runs deep in our community, just as it has for 145 years through the American Red Cross. And today, those who serve with the Northern California coastal region of the Red Cross light the way during emergencies, whether it's delivering shelter, food, and comfort after disasters, providing a safe, life-saving blood supply for patients facing conditions like cancer treatments, childbirth complications, and traumatic injuries, assisting military members, veterans, and their family with 24/7 global support, or empowering individuals with skills like first aid and CPR that saves lives. And these collective efforts are a powerful reminder that the strength of our community lies in our shared commitment to one another. And as we mark Red Cross Month, let's celebrate our local heroes and resolve to continue lifting each other up so no one faces an emergency alone. So now therefore be it proclaimed, the City Council of the City of Healdsburg hereby recognizes March 2024 as Red Cross Month and encourages all community members of Healdsburg to reach out and support the work of the Red Cross.
Thank you. We'd like to welcome Cindy Jones from the American Red Cross to come say a few words and receive the proclamation. Welcome.
Co-volunteer Gina Clemens. We really, you took away everything away.
If you could stand a little closer to the microphone, please.
Sorry.
No problem.
You kind of said my whole speech, so I don't have to say a whole lot, which is great. So my name is Cindy Jones, and I actually joined the Red Cross during 9/11 and went to New Jersey. I'm a retired nurse, and my friend Gina here, co-volunteer, is also a retired nurse. And so we do what's called disaster health services for the American Red Cross. You may remember Clara Barton, who started the American Red Cross in 1881. She saw what was happening overseas with the International Red Cross, and so she brought the Red Cross to the American people in 1881 during the Civil War. There's some debate about whether or not she really was a nurse. However, 91% of the American Red Cross are volunteers. So, and 90% of the donated dollar goes to disaster response. So we don't get paid, but we do it out of a deep compassion and love for what we do, to be able to help people that are in need. We really thank you for this proclamation because, and recognition, because the American Red Cross provides a really important service to our nation. Nationwide, we're all trained the same. We can go to each other's states and do the exact same work. We also support our military by if somebody in the military's family dies or if they die overseas, we can help reconcile the families, which is a really important service that we do as well. We are mandated by the United States government to provide this service. And again, it is free to the American people. So we rely on you, the community, to step up and volunteer, to step up and donate. Please take CPR, hands only, so that if somebody falls, you know what the heck you're going to do, okay? You don't stand there and go, oh no, I don't know what to do. It's called hands only now. We do not do mouth to mouth. So you need to do that and know how to use your AED. So we encourage that. We encourage you to donate. We also provide a free service where we install smoke alarms. And so if you need a smoke alarm or a mobile home park or a big community, we love to step in and do that. We also educate the community in things like wildfire prevention. So we encourage the community to go to the fairs and to harden their home. Makes a big difference when you follow the rules about how to keep your home safe. And make sure you have a Go kit. Could I ask a raise of hands, everybody that has a Go kit that they can grab? Okay. Wow, that's amazing. That's really, really awesome. Don't forget your pets. Don't forget your dentures, your hearing aids, and your essential medications and food for your animals. So we do all this with the generosity of the American Red Cross, and we really, really thank the people for that, and thank you for this. I'd like for Gina to tell you just a little bit about what she does personally, because she's an amazing Red Cross volunteer.
So my name is Gina Clemens. I live in Windsor, and I've been volunteering with the American Red Cross for about the last 2 years. I started in disaster health services and have moved on to what we call DAT response. And DAT response is taking call 24/7. We do 12-hour shifts and being available to respond to any disaster at any location in Sonoma County and now Marin County. We've joined with them. So I can get called at 2:00 in the morning to head out to a house fire. This is my Red Cross to go bag. I have my laptop in here and my identification that I take out with me. And what we do in the sort of heat of the moment is provide immediate assistance financially to victims of a disaster. Could be a tree falling on their house that happened recently out in the Guerneville area. It could be a small house fire. It could be a large house fire. It could be an apartment fire. We recently had that down in Santa Rosa. And we assess the immediate needs of the individuals involved and provide immediate assistance. Part of opening a case, or what we call a Red Cross case, is to ask the clients whether or not they will have health needs, mental health needs, physical health needs, or spiritual care needs. And we can make those referrals that same evening, and then people reach out, other volunteers within the Red Cross reach out to them to provide that assistance. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But being a Red Cross volunteer is one of the most rewarding things I've done. I'm also bilingual Spanish. And so if there is anybody here in the Healdsburg community that is bilingual as well and would like to volunteer, we could certainly use more volunteers that speak Spanish.
And actually, that's a segue into volunteering. So anybody that has a passion and would like to really to work with volunteer with the Red Cross, you can just go online, put in an application. We do a background check. Mayor Harold, I just really like to thank you very much for inviting us here. And it's a pleasure for the city of Healdsburg. You guys are great. I love you. I live on Dry Creek and, been here a long time and been through the 2015, 19, 20 fires also. opening shelters and providing support for our residents. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and we really appreciate you and the City Council.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate your organization, your efforts so much. We really do. So thank you for being here. Please stick around. We're going to do a photo afterwards. I'm going to invite my fellow council members to say anything if they'd like to, but please stick around. Anybody have anything to say right now? Okay, thank you. And so we're going to move on to our next presentation, which is a proclamation recognizing March 2026 as Women's History Month. Councilmember Ariel Kelly.
Thank you so much, Mayor Herod, and I'm delighted to present this proclamation of the City Council of the City of Healdsburg recognizing March 2026 as Women's History Month in the City of Healdsburg. Whereas women have always played a critical role in shaping the economic, cultural, and social fabric of our society through their participation in the labor force, working both inside and outside of the home, in leadership positions, and through creative inspiration. And the 2026 theme for Women's History Month is Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, which calls upon us to confront the wide range of overlapping global challenges, including climate change, economic insecurity, healthcare disparities, and threats to democratic participation. And the story of women throughout America is the story of women of all ages, races, and cultural backgrounds who led campaigns for equality and civil rights, advanced professional and educational opportunities, founded entirely new enterprises, and contributed significantly to the arts, sciences, and humanistic causes. And Women's History Month provides an opportunity for communities to expand appreciation for the diverse contributions of women who have led and are leading sustainability efforts across environmental, economic, educational, and social justice movements, and empower action towards sustainability. And whereas Women's History Month highlights how these challenges are intertwined and how women, particularly from marginalized communities, often experience their impact most acutely. So now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Healdsburg, hereby recognizing March 2026 as Women's History Month in the City of Healdsburg. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Gina Fortino Dixon to receive the proclamation and say a few words. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members, for this opportunity to speak today in recognition of Women's History Month. As you've heard, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future is this year's theme. When I started thinking about that, I really focused in on leadership. When we hear the word leadership, we often think about titles, elected officials such as yourselves, CEO, other historical figures whose names appear in history books. But today I want to focus on a different kind of leadership, the leadership of everyday women. The mother who organizes her neighbors during wildfire season, the teacher who mentors first-generation students after school, the nurse who notices a patient struggling and takes the extra step to connect them, the small business owner who hires local and takes and creates opportunities, the volunteer who quietly fills backpacks with food on the weekends. These women may not always hold formal titles, but they are shaping a resilient, sustainable future in the most direct and meaningful ways. That is leadership. Boots on the ground, hearts in the classroom, in PTA meetings, in boardrooms, in organizations, places of worship, union halls, clinics, kitchens, and community centers. Look around you in any given situation, and you will see examples of this kind of leadership. Women frequently carry multiple responsibilities as professionals, caregivers, community advocates, and mentors. Yet despite these demands, they continue to step forward when something needs to be organized, improved, protected, or sustained. That is leadership. Long before Clara Barton was the founder of the Red Cross, she was Clara who noticed someone needed support. And that first step, that regular everyday woman, is now recognized across the world. In our own county, meaningful progress depends on these everyday leaders. It depends on women who advocate for safe neighborhoods, for equitable schools, access to health care, the vitality of small businesses, and environmental stewardship. It depends on women who raise their hands, sometimes for the first time, to serve on commissions, advisory boards, and community task forces. If we truly want to build a sustainable future, we must recognize and support this everyday leadership. That means ensuring access to childcare, promoting economic opportunities, supporting pathways into civic engagement, and creating environments where women's voices are welcomed and respected. Leadership is not just about being seen. It's about seeing those affected by the decisions that we make. It's about families, fostering opportunities, ensuring public health, and sustaining community trust. To that end, the Commission on the Status of Women has undertaken to give these women a voice. We have now held 3 hearings which purport to offer a voice to women in the community, women with lived experience, women who work in the fields, women who see the effects in their everyday lives, in their neighborhoods, of their friends, and in their community. Our initial hearings topics were unhoused women and girls. We invited persons with lived experience who testified about the personal experiences of being a woman who is living on the streets, alongside service providers who were able to speak to the limitations of resources and access to assistance. In fact, in that room, we were able to connect a woman who was currently living in her vehicle with service providers before she walked out that door. It was a very powerful moment. Our next hearing was on the effects of ICE enforcement on women and families in Sonoma County. There were more than 50 people in the room. And I know your council meetings are much more well-attended, but if you can imagine, our commission meetings rarely have one community member in the room. So when 50 showed up and we had to use an overflow room because the fire department would have come and got us for having too many people in the room, you could feel the impactfulness of that moment as those women came and told us about how the stress of wondering if ICE was going to enforce in their neighborhoods, of sending their children off with instructions of what to do if when they returned home from school, their parents weren't there, of wondering, the children wondering at school what they will do, whether mom and dad will be there. And then the hope of the service providers, the lawyers, the entire community coming together to support these families. Last 2 months ago now, we hosted Women's Access to Mental Health Care. The stories we heard were fiercely personal, and the discussion really shone a light on the need to have access points at every gateway, in schools, in community centers, throughout the workplace, through county services, and through coordinating with healthcare providers. Once these hearings conclude, the commission issues a position paper and provides that position paper to the board in an effort to inform the policy decisions that are being made and push to the front the understanding of the unique effects that these potential decisions have on women and girls. We also make these position papers available on our website to other entities and to the general public. I'd like to invite you and the communities to our upcoming hearing on April 9th, the cost of aging in Sonoma County. On August 13th, violence against girls and women. On August 8th, the unique effects and experiences of incarcerated women. And February 11th, Leadership and Career Development for Girls and Women. Because when everyday women lead, communities become stronger. When everyday women are empowered, systems become more resilient. And when everyday women are supported, the future becomes more sustainable for everyone. So this Women's History Month, let us celebrate not only the well-known pioneers of the past, but the women sitting beside us today, leading quietly, steadily, and powerfully. Thank you.
We really appreciate your words. Thank you very much. If you could, yeah, thank you. You could come join us for a photo and receive your proclamation, and then we'll have the Red Cross folks up afterwards, please.
Our next item is the annual police department update with Chief of Police Matt Jenkins. Welcome, Matt.
Good evening and thank you. All right, so good evening and thank you for the opportunity to present the Police Department's 2025 annual update. I'm going to walk you through some of our operational context, some challenges we're facing, and some of the remarkable achievements of our team. Next slide. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty details of it, I want to highlight some of the team's accomplishments in 2025, starting with reported crime being down 17%. Property crime was a large driver to that. In those areas, we saw burglary down 71%, vandalism's down 69%, auto thefts down 67%. During the year, we also had low levels of use of force with only 5 incidents and more than 18,000 police contacts. Our core team responded to nearly 1,000 calls, with 60% of those handled as a solo clinician. And we've implemented some cutting edge technology, including live in-field translation for our officers. Next slide. So I'm going to begin with an overview of some key operational statistics for 2025. They kind of tell the story of the department managing a significant workload and complexity, with a little over 18,000 incidents handled, just shy of 600 arrests, and again, over those almost 1,000 core team calls for service. Dispatch answered nearly 20,000 phone calls, with 2,600 of those being 911 emergency phone calls. Our records department submitted over 460 cases to the district attorney's office for prosecution. And on average, our dispatch team was processing over 40 discovery requests per month. And that includes having to process all the radio traffic, the 911 calls coming in, body worn cameras, and getting those to the DA or other private attorneys for prosecution purposes. But to truly understand what these numbers mean, and that, let me back up. The green arrow going up means it's higher than last year, and the red arrows mean is down from the previous year. And that's just contextual over 1 year over time. But to really understand what these numbers represent and what these accomplishments really mean from the previous slide, I want to talk about the team that achieved them. Next slide, please. So staffing is our most important resource in the police department, and it's also our most critical challenge. Those accomplishments, they were achieved under some extraordinary constraints in 2025. If you remember the presentation I gave last year, I talked about some of the staffing challenges that we anticipated, and those came to fruition with some other unexpected challenges through the year. As we sit here today on March 2nd, 25, we have 13 effective patrol officers and 3 effective dispatchers available for duty. What that means is how many positions we have filled, minus those that are in training or on some form of leave. So we're operating at just 72% of our authorized level today. In dispatch, we see 3 effective dispatchers, just 50% of our authorized strength. It's our lowest level in over a decade and creates some operational challenges, not just on the dispatch side, but on the patrol side, with limited availability for vacations, increased overtime, and reduced capacity to handle simultaneous emergencies. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge additional professional staff members, including our records supervisor, police technician, our part-time parking enforcement and code enforcement officers, emergency response coordinator, and our LMFT, our licensed clinician on staff, who are force multipliers and allow our sworn and dispatch personnel to focus on other core public safety functions. So when I showed you the accomplishments in the previous slide, 17% reduction in crime, 71% decrease in burglaries, those were not achieved by a fully staffed department. They were achieved with a department that looked like this for much of the year. So I just ask that you keep these numbers in mind as we go through some of the next slides, because it'll give additional context to the numbers we're talking about. Next slide. So with that, we're going to talk about our first measure of performance, which is response times, and particularly response times to life-threatening emergencies, or our priority 1 calls for service. These are those that require immediate response to protect people from life-threatening situations or other emergencies. Things like crimes in progress, active violence, or medical emergencies requiring a police response. In 2025, priority 1 response times was 3 minutes and 51 seconds. That's up from 2024's response time for priority 1s of 2 minutes and 57 seconds. So we saw a 54-second increase in that time. But I just want to note too that 2024 had the best response time we've seen in many years. But I also want to emphasize that we also maintained an under 4-minute response time in light of some of the staffing challenges we had both on patrol and in the dispatch side. I think, maintaining this level of service under these conditions demonstrates some exceptional dedication and efficiency of our officers and dispatchers. And to put it into perspective, we're handling more significant calls for service with fewer resources, and yet we're still getting officers to life-threatening emergencies in less than 4 minutes. Next slide. So we're going to walk through some incident trends, starting with both officer-initiated incidents, which are those that start with an officer just out on patrol, and then calls for service. Those are the ones that are coming in from the community. From 2020 to 2024, we saw a steady increase in the total incidents, peaking at over 21,000 last year, a 58% increase over a 4-year period. Last year, we saw a decrease, as you can see, down to just over 18,000 calls for incidents, calls for service and officer-initiated incidents combined, which is a 14% decrease from 2024. Again, it's still higher than where we were in previous years and the 2020 baseline that we're looking at here. The decrease is really twofold. First, it's a reduction in crime, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail, but it's also the reality of reduced officer-initiated activity due to the lower staffing levels. With fewer officers available out on the street conducting patrol, the less capacity there is for some of the proactive enforcement activities such as traffic stops, warrant service, field-initiated investigations. And these types of incidents have historically represented a significant portion of our total incident count, as you can see by the green up there. Next slide. So this slide breaks down calls for service, those that are coming into the dispatch center from the community by major service categories, showing where our resources are being deployed and kind of the breadth of responsibilities that officers are handling every day. You'll see that it's kind of a mustardy yellow color up there spiking last year. Those are 911 calls. And that's not saying that the 911 call, there are only 700 911 calls. Those are the calls that are dispoed out at the end as a 911 related call. Those could be pocket dials, missed dials, things along those lines that don't get categorized into some other type of incident. So we saw those go up last year. But we are seeing alarms go down and some of the other categories there. But one thing that to point out here is we are seeing areas. I'm sorry, let me go back. I was going ahead of one slide. So some of the highest volume categories, some traffic related welfare checks, theft and property crime and disturbances. And next slide. So we're going to transition from the incidents coming into outcomes, being our crime rates. And this data is derived from information that we submit to the FBI through the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which is a comprehensive way of capturing detailed information about each case, including victim demographics, offender characteristics, relationships, property loss, and many other factors. This provides a much deeper analysis than what we had prior to 2021 when we transitioned over from the uniform crime reports. So as we look at these numbers, 2022 and on, we can look at comparables. Before 21, we're really looking at categories that are somewhat overlap, but are not necessarily 100% comparable. But it's there for historical context. I'm pleased to share that our crime stats, as I told you at the beginning of the presentation, were down nearly 17%. And again, this has happened while we're operating at a reduced reduced staffing level. Property crimes showed a particularly dramatic decrease, my apologies. Violent crime remains rare in Healdsburg. Robberies decreased 33%, down to just 2 incidents. Forcible sex offenses decreased 29%. Now, some of these are very small numbers that we deal with in Healdsburg, but they still represent reductions nonetheless that are worthy of pointing out. One area that we have seen an increase on last year were assault offenses, which increased 24%, going from 98 to 122 overall incidents. We're still looking into what might be the underlying cause of these increases. Some of possibilities are just the broader categorizations of assault offenses under reporting conditions today. And so we're trying to see what the driver of those are and assessing whether it reflects the actual increase in violent crimes, improved victim reporting of crime, or just, again, the changes in categorization under NIBRS. Next slide, please. So breaking it down into what this all means from a trend level, again, property crime down. Our larcenies, thefts, burglaries, vandalism, all those are down, as I mentioned earlier. These are transformational improvements that have a direct impact on quality of life for people in our community, right? These are the typical offenses that most people in Healdsburg may fall victim to. I believe some of these successes are a reflection of our community partnerships, people reaching out and calling us when they see suspicious activity happening, use of technology, including ALPR technology for vehicle-related crimes, and just proactive policing by our officers. We saw weapon law violations decrease 37% last year over the previous year. And it's worth noting that weapon violations are often discovered during traffic stops and other initiated contacts. So reduced staffing can have an impact on some of those statistics, as well as some other crimes against society, such as liquor law violations, as well as narcotics violations. We are seeing, again, the increases in assault offenses. Counterfeiting and forgery also increased last year, as well as family offenses. And those go back to some of the domestic related incidents and other family violent crimes that fall into that area. Next slide. So one of the most important measures of police professionalism is how rarely force can be used. This slide tells a powerful story about training, restraint, and professionalism of our officers, especially under the pressure of reduced staffing. In 2025, we only had 5 incidences of use of force, which is our lowest in the last 6 years. And that was out of almost 600 arrests, which is less than 1% of a time when we had to arrest someone, force had to be used in order to get that to happen. When you consider the over 18,000 contacts, force was used in less than 3 1/100ths of 1%. That's a 44% decrease over last year. And again, the lowest rate in 6 years. Pursuits also decreased from 9 to 5 last year. Well, we can't decide when someone's going to stop when an officer makes a traffic enforcement stop. We are continually committed to balancing that person's apprehension with public safety and using tools and technologies where we balance that safety to be able to, and also being able to find them and apprehend them later. These outcomes reflect sustained training, oversight, and a strong emphasis on de-escalation. It is important to note that every use of force incident and pursuit is reviewed by a supervisor, the lieutenant, and myself. Next slide. The core policing team, I think, represents one of our department's most successful innovations and has been a proven model in how we can address some complex societal issues. As you know, it launched in October of 2021 and was initially conceived as a co-response model pairing a licensed mental health clinician with a police officer. However, over the last 2 years, as I've reported, we've operated this as a solo clinician response because we haven't had an officer to be able to assign into this position. And we found that the solo clinician model is highly effective for handling the types of calls that they've been handling. Last year, 942 calls for service were handled by our clinician, and with 60% of those were handled as a solo responder without the need of a police officer responding as well. And the majority of these were proactive contacts, meaning our clinician is engaging with community members before a crisis occurs, building relationships, connecting them with resources, and preventing situations from escalating to the point where police intervention might be needed. In practical terms, this means that all those situations could have been contributed to resolving situations without the need for a police response and having that many fewer calls that our patrol officers had to respond to. Next slide. So technology is really transforming policing, and Healdsburg PD has been strategic in adopting tools that help us address our staffing challenges while improving service to the community. I think one of the most meaningful technology improvements we've implemented this year is the ability for live translation in the field through our Axon body camera system. Officers can now communicate in real time with community members who speak languages other than English directly in the field. It helps ensure that language is not a barrier to receiving service from our members of our department, reporting a crime, or getting help during an emergency. And we've also implemented similar technology in our police department lobby, improving accessibility and making our services more inclusive for the entire community. This technology in the field is delivered through the same body camera platform that our officers use to record their interactions daily. And it's also providing an opportunity for us to do a pilot program with AI-assisted report writing. In addition to capturing incident details, the system can assist officers in drafting initial reports based on recorded information, saving valuable time and resources for the officers as they prepare their reports. We implemented this in conjunction with the live translation in response to some of the staffing constraints. And we're going to be evaluating its effectiveness and accuracy. If it continues to be positive, this tool could help reduce administrative time and return valuable hours to patrol and community engagement, serving as a practical force multiplier for our staff. I also want to take the opportunity to briefly address how our department uses technology responsibly and effectively, and some areas that we are committed to. First is public safety. We look at leveraging technology to solve and prevent crime, to make the community safer through data-driven approaches and modern investigative tools. We maintain strict limits on privacy protections on who can access the data and how it's used. We have public access to data usage in our policies on our website and via transparency portals, and adhering to California law and department policies without exception for legal compliance. We see technology as a tool, though, not a solution. It only works when we pair it with accountability, community trust, and constitutional policing. We're committed to all three of these. And technology helps our reduced staff work smarter, but it doesn't replace the need to have them out there doing the real work behind the police work. Next slide. Our automated license plate reader is one of those technology platforms that we've used and have been using since January 2023. And it's become an invaluable investigative tool that we use while maintaining strict privacy protections. I know there's been some reports out in the media that have raised legitimate questions about automated license plate readers and the technology, questions about data sharing, federal access, immigration enforcement use with those, and privacy protections. I want to assure you in the community that we hear these concerns, we share them, and we take take them seriously as a police department. The city operates 11 ALPR cameras at the ingress and egress points. I know there is some information on the transparency portal with Flock that shows this number is 26. I assure you that it is 11. The 26 cameras includes the public safety cameras that council authorized about a year ago. Those include those cameras as well in that number of 26. So it's 11 ALPR cameras. As we look at uses for the ALPR cameras and some results from those, I've highlighted organized retail theft arrests, kidnapping case, burglary cases, and pursuit suspect identifications. And I think it's worth noting that this is a tool that makes officers' work more efficient and effective in helping them solve some of these crimes. And to highlight with the kidnapping case there, if everyone can remember, about mid-year, the police department reported that there was a kidnapping at Gibbs Park. Someone who had stopped to use the restroom there was kidnapped at gunpoint. Officers were able to use the Flock technology to immediately confirm and identify the last known location of the victim's vehicle as it fled with a victim's husband in it. This allowed officers who were working to focus on the crime scene and the victim on scene rather than trying to have to find and look for the outstanding victim and the suspects. They were able to relay that information to allied law enforcement agencies in the area who were able to quickly locate the suspect vehicle. Ultimately, they were able to apprehend both suspects and get the other victim safe. And up there, I have a link for the transparency portal for LPR cameras. That's also linked off the police department's website for anyone who would like to take a look. I know there's probably a lot of additional questions on ALPR technology. What I would suggest, if council does have questions there, since this is not an item that is necessarily agendized for council discussion tonight, it'd be something that we would be happy to bring back for a more formalized discussion later, if there's a desire to do that. Next slide. The Racial Identity and Profiling Act, or RIPA, was enacted in 2016, requiring law enforcement agencies to collect and report detailed data on all stops. And stops is defined as police contacts where the person is not free to leave. So detentions, investigative stops, not just traffic stops. So for every stop, we're required to collect over 25 data elements, including perceived race, gender of the person stopped, the reason for the stop, the outcome, and whether the officer knew the person's race before the stop was initiated. The purpose behind this legislation, one, was to hold us accountable to our community and to identify and address any patterns of bias in policing practices. And it's something we take seriously and we look at on an annual basis. Last year, we had over 2,200 contacts that met the definition of a stop, which is a 35% decrease from the prior year. And again, this is directly related to officer-initiated activity and reduced staffing levels on the street. Next slide. This slide shows the racial breakdown of people who are contacted as part of the RIPA stops. What's important to note here that in a vast majority of our stops, over 98%, officers did not know the race or gender of the person they were contacting prior to the stop. Officers responding to behavior violations and calls for service where they just did not know this beforehand. Next slide. Here's an additional breakdown for gender, which is something we've typically been seeing over the years. We've been contacting this. It's usually about a quarter, 3/4 male, female, and then a breakdown of non-moving violations, and equipment violations. Again, all of these data points have been fairly typical over the years. Next slide. I want to take an opportunity to once again highlight the police department's role, or more accurately, our lack of role in immigration enforcement. This is something I hear over and over from our community and as a concern and what our role is. The police department does not make inquiries about immigration status or engage in immigration enforcement or detain individuals based on federal immigration violations. That status is irrelevant to us and how we provide our service. That's our policy, but it's also state law. California Values Act prohibits local law enforcement from using resources for federal immigration enforcement. We do not assist ICE. We do not check immigration status. And this matters to us because we need every member in our community to feel safe in calling the police when they're victims of crime or if they've witnessed a crime. If people fear calling us will result in immigration consequences, they won't report crime, they won't cooperate with investigations, and criminals can continue to victimize some of our most vulnerable residents. Next slide. AB 481 is the military equipment policy, is the legislation that requires the council to have a military equipment policy by ordinance, which we did in April of 2022. We're also required annually to have that renewed and reauthorized, which is part of the consent calendar item tonight. The police department maintains 3 categories of equipment, being drones, 38 and 40 millimeter less lethal launchers, and their associated munitions. Next slide. Community engagement is something that we remain committed to and continue to build positive relationships with all of those that we serve. Our officers participate in a variety of programs, including the Healdsburg High School Internship Program, which gives students a hand-on exposure to a career in law enforcement. We also partner with the high school with Skills USA on both CSI and criminal justice programs that they offer there. We work with Sonoma State and Santa Rosa Junior College Public Safety Training Centers to develop a pipeline for the next generation of our officers. We participate in the Special Olympics Torch Run, Toys for Tots, conduct school presentations, the Senior Appreciation Dinner, National Night Out, Coffee with Cops, among many others. And this does not take into account the countless volunteer hours outside of their official capacity the members of our departments engage in throughout this community. These programs matter to us. They help us build trust, and they show our community that we're not just enforcers. We're part of the neighborhood. We're mentors. We're partners. Next slide. So beyond day-to-day policing in our department, we have emergency management, which is led by our emergency manager. And this plays a critical role in the city's emergency management and disaster preparedness. We didn't have any major emergencies last year or natural disasters, but that's just one side of emergency management. That's on the response side. Before that, we still have mitigation and preparation, and that's where our emergency manager spends a lot of their time. And in this past year, that included updating our local hazard mitigation plan, which you all saw, working on the utility wildfire mitigation plan, the wildfire annex are just some of those plans that got updated. We also work on conducting ongoing staff training for emergency response, making sure that we engage in community outreach to ensure that residents are prepared for emergencies. And given our location in wildfire country and earthquake zones and flood areas, this work is essential to our community resilience. Next slide. So let's bring this full circle and re-highlight some of these major accomplishments that we've had. Again, lows in use of force, only 5 incidents representing 0.03% of all of our police contacts, the lowest in 6 years. Reduced overall crime by nearly 17% last year with dramatic reductions in property crimes. Our core team has continued operating at that solo clinician level and is freeing patrol officers to focus on their traditional police matters, but we're seeing a great success in the work that he's performing out there with those populations. We hired 3 new police officers, Lupita Turbe, Christian Garcia, and Omar Nuno, a dispatcher, Kayla Neal Grant, to fill some of our voids. I note up there we had over 700 applications received combined for both police officer and dispatcher positions. Needless to say, there's no shortage of applicants who want to work or who are putting in applications for these positions. Our challenge, though, is finding high-quality applicants who are the right fit for Healdsburg and who can pass a background check. That remains the challenge that we're facing today in filling our positions. We've implemented cutting-edge technology, including the live translation services and piloting the AI report writing programs, which are helping us to work smarter and with fewer people. And we've done all this with a 35% increase in incident volumes over 5 years ago, while maintaining response times in under 4 minutes and continuing all the different community engagement efforts that our staff is doing. I think all these accomplishments really reflect on the dedication and professionalism of every member of this department. And I do want to make sure that they know that I'm proud of all the work that they've been doing out there. Next slide. So looking ahead to 2026, we have priorities in several areas. First and foremost is stabilized staffing. We need to address the vacancies that we have in dispatch and in patrol. It's not sustainable to continue to operate at the levels that we're operating at. So We're spending a lot of time and effort focusing on those and recruiting and getting high quality people in and working. Second is expanding our wellness programming. Wellness is not just about taking care of the officers. It's about ensuring that we have healthy, resilient officers capable of making good decisions under stress and serving this community effectively over the totality of their careers. Hopefully those are long careers here with the Healdsburg Police Department. We're prioritizing mental health resources, peer support, physical fitness, and work-life balance for all of our personnel. Next is leveraging technology. Based on the results of our pilot programs, we'll determine whether to expand that capability. And we're also going to be exploring additional tools that we can have to improve efficiency. So every hour that we save from doing some of those administrative tasks frees up time to be out there patrolling the streets and providing additional safety for our community. And next is operational excellence. We're going to be working with Post on conducting a management study to evaluate our organizational structure and staffing model to ensure that we're positioned to meet current and future demands of our community. And then we're also going to explore possibly accreditation to formalize our commitment to professional standards and best practices. And finally, while it's not up there, is to maintain and continue community engagement. We want to build upon the current outreach efforts that we have ongoing and continue to look for new opportunities for positive police community interactions. And with that, thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you for that excellent report. Before we go to public comment and council comments and questions, I'd like to just address your offer to return to the license plate reader question. I know there's a lot of questions in the community. I've heard them. I have questions myself, and I think they're all worth addressing. And I think we probably need more time to stretch out and do that. And I think the public would appreciate that opportunity as well. But before we do that, I need to check with the council to see if we have some agreement in bringing that back on a future agenda. So I'll start with Councilmember Hagley. You don't want to? Okay. Councilmember Mitchell?
I'm not really sure if I think that's appropriate. I think maybe more reporting potentially versus that discussion about that. We've had many discussions about the camera system, and I think what Chief Jenkins has told us tonight makes me feel pretty comfortable with the way they're using the information. So I'm kind of a no, I think, on that one.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly?
I'm happy to bring back the conversation for a future discussion, just so that we can have a dialogue that's focused about it, especially for members of the community who've raised concerns to us about some of the privacy issues happening in other communities and data sharing happening in other communities. I have high confidence that that is not happening here because of the way that we set up the program and some of the constraints that we put on it in terms of how much the department is sharing with whom and how long are they retaining that information for and who can access it. But that information, it sounds like, is not clear to our community. And so I want to make sure that what my understanding is of it is accurate, that we don't have some of these data issues that are happening in other communities that are other agencies are using them, or they're tracking people for things that are not crimes, but vendettas, weird things that are inappropriate for use. So I would be happy to have the conversation to ensure that those constraints are still in place and that the department can have an opportunity to answer those questions from the community. I know we've had those meetings and we didn't have a lot of people show up for them, but now that these systems have been out there for a while, it sounds like some other cities are flying fast and loose with the rules and other communities are having some big problems. So I'm glad we're not having those problems here.
And that kind of recaps a lot of the questions that I'm hearing from the community. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, I want to separate clearly that I have no doubts on how our police department is handling it. It is the overall big picture that there are questions and that I have, because that was something that was very important to me when I was running for office the first time. I've been in touch with Chief Jenkins on this, and it seems that there are just issues that are coming up that I think that we need to address some of these new things to kind of bring us in line with other departments in the county. And I was thinking maybe goal setting would be a time to have a conversation, not necessarily an agendized item, but where we can go into this a little deeper and maybe set some issues, because as Councilwoman Kelly brought up, there are some serious questions in the community. Flock is not doing any good in answering those questions, and by us not addressing them, it kind of leaves it out there that it's floating. And so I think until we actually take some time and address this for our community to know that we do care and have questions about this.
But it sounds like you're in favor of bringing this back, though. I'm not sure that we need to run it through the goal setting process to do that.
I think in an informal thing, we could get through it quicker than an actual fully agendized meeting issue is how I.
Yeah, I would disagree with you respectfully, because I think we need to have the broader public input, and that's really what I think putting this on an agenda would accomplish. Whereas with the goal setting, you're not going to have the sort of engagement that we would normally would on a regular meeting.
Well, in looking at this for 3 years, it's been the Ron and Ron questions. So I haven't gotten I've gotten really detailed response. I've been very aware of this throughout the county, throughout the state, throughout the country on that. And I don't know that, this is the third time we've talked about this, and we've only gotten questions from myself and another member of the community. I know that our police chief has done these military use meetings, and I go to see what the presentations are, and they're always very good, and I'm the only one in the room. So I don't know if I want to I feel that I could use our council time better at goal setting, where we could do it, than rather taking, unless we have unless there's not I'd leave it up to the city manager, but I don't know if we need to actually agendize that at council.
City manager, do you have any comments on that?
I think it really comes down to what the council is looking to accomplish in this conversation. If it's really a presentation, what I'm speculating is a desire from the council, or at least some council members, is a presentation from staff on our understanding of the concerns that are out there, the configuration we have, our policies in place to use these systems, the controls that we've put on the system. To me, that's probably more of a conversation than an action item or a project that typically goes on goal setting. So I think we'd be comfortable with that context. I think if the council wants to, putting it on a regular agenda, just kind of providing an update and giving you all a chance to ask questions, giving the community a chance to ask questions. I think something Chief Jenkins said is important. Obviously, you can ask questions right now tonight, and we welcome that. But as we've gotten indications that there might be a lot of questions, we didn't agendize this item on that topic. And out of fairness then to the community, if we're going to go down that road, we recommend doing so. With that in mind, I think a council meeting would make sense if that's the direction of the council, just so we can put it out there on the agenda, and anybody who's interested can join us or tune in.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I would just like to say, out of all of the 3 hours I've spent diving into this, it boiled down to 4 questions for me, which is why I didn't feel that it needed to be. It's not a huge issue. It's just a quick kind of thing. But however you see us going through it to get that information out to the public, I'll follow your lead.
Thank you. I think that if we have it as a separate agenda item, you will get more of the public comment. Right now, it's frankly buried in the police report, which, it's a good place for it to be, and we appreciate the opportunity to ask these questions, but I think the community would appreciate having it on an agenda in the future. So I think we have the support to do that, unless anybody has any others comments. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate. Councilmember Mitchell just said she has not changed her mind, and I think that's true from Councilmember Hagley. So thank you for that. But we will bring that back. But let's move forward then, and I'd like to open up to public comment at this time. Does anybody like to speak? No, this is not for non-agenda items. This is for the police report.
We're reviewing with the police department the update for the year, especially upcoming issues. I wanted to introduce the upcoming issue. My name's Adina. I am the issue. I'm about to be an issue since you guys can't respond to emails. So it'll make more sense after my next comment during non-agenda items. I will coordinate it with the chief, but I will be exercising my First Amendment rights. And last time that happened, you did need a large police presence because this community is extremely racist. You guys are corrupt, and I don't care for it very much. So your community is so upset with the current leadership that the cannabis industry actually paid me over $1,000 just to drive down here today and have these conversations with you. So thank you to law enforcement. Thank you for respecting my rights. We will coordinate accordingly. But yeah, you guys are going to hear what I have to say since you can't respond to emails. So God bless you. Thank you so much. Ariel, I hope you find Christ.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm taken back by the comment that just happened. That was pretty upsetting to hear someone come up and say something like that. Having lived here for a long time, I disagree very much. Thank you for the report. Thank you for agendizing what you just suggested is important to do right now. I think the community deserves to have a separate item for what you just referred to, Mayor. And I just thank you so much, everybody, for your patience in these times of conflict and unnecessary hostile comments. Thank you so much for leading us and for keeping us safe.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak or public comment, please? All right, I'm going to close public comment now and bring it back to the council. Who would like to speak first? Councilmember Hagley?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. First, I just want to thank you for, first, congratulations to your senior daughter, who was a lady hound that won the championship last night. And it leads to my comment about seeing our police officers in the community. Going to the school events or going to any of the events in town, we see our officers around. You're part of the community. And I think that really ties into one of your final slides. That there is that trust with the community, and I really appreciate it. And the other thing I wanted to say was, kind of in the discussion about agendizing things, I kind of want to hear, you said you had 4 questions. I mean, maybe we can just ask them here. I'd be curious if that's what you were looking to do or no.
No, I'd rather, since we've already brought it up, that it will be discussed as an agendized item to the public that has gotten out there. So I don't want to take that away from the public to have that opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly, would you like to go next?
Sure. I just, I have a difficult time responding to the chief's report when someone is saying something so blatantly anti-Semitic time and again about my religious identity. As a Jewish person of faith, having someone continue to reference Jesus Christ at me is anti-Semitic, inappropriate, and completely uncalled for in this chamber as we discuss Healdsburg city business. This is the 5th or 6th time this has happened this year. It continues to happen. It is harassment. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the report. I know that we've had a number of staffing challenges and recruitment challenges, which are not unique to the city. But I do see and have heard from members of your team the stress that they are under to continue to perform for our community at such a high level, but with reduced staffing. And I think we all in various parts of our lives have been asked to do, more than we signed up for. And I think given the requirements of the role that we're asking our department to play, and in addition, their well-being and their mental health and their wellness, just ensuring that the police department staff knows that we care about their well-being, that they play an important role in this community. And, there is no, magic recipe for how do we recruit and identify when so many other law enforcement agencies are also struggling to recruit in this community. And I know how much time and energy you, as you mentioned, finding people that are the right fit for our department that can pass a background check and so on and so forth. So thank you for continuing to push forward with trying to fill our vacancies. And I know this is an annual conversation that we have about vacancies within the department. And it is seemingly not getting a ton easier, but I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. And I think that even though we've had staffing challenges, the morale within the department and the level of support and kind of being a part of the Healdsburg family, you can definitely sense that when having conversations one-on-one with members of your team. And I think that stems from leadership. And so thank you for the work that you continue to do. And please extend our appreciation to the officers and our dispatch team and all of those who are working around the clock in this community. So thank you. I think with respect to some of the other, you had mentioned some of the assault crimes that were going up. And was that the two separate items on that graph? It was like there was two classifications for it and added together as in the aggregate is what the number was you were stating?
The two that were going up in that slide were simple assaults and aggravated assaults. So combined, those were going up. Correct.
And do you have a sense that some of the decrease in the reporting, do you have a feeling, where that might be? We're seeing less crimes reported. Any reason why you think that's happening? Do you think there's less crime happening? I guess maybe is the better question.
So that's the difficult thing with crime numbers, right? We only know the crimes that are reported. The numbers that aren't are what are referred to as a dark number. And there used to be a survey that was a National Crime Victimization Survey that would randomly call people and ask, were you a victim of a crime? And that gave us kind of what those dark numbers were. Those surveys aren't being done now. So we really don't have what that current dark number of crime really is. So I don't think that we're seeing less people report crime out of fear of immigration enforcement or some of those other stories that you hear out there. I think part of it truly is just a reduction in some level of that property crime going on. Most people will call us if their bike is stolen or if their purse is taken from their unlocked car while they're at the grocery store. We get those reports, and we're seeing those go down.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations on the basketball thing first.
I can take no credit for that. I was just there a little stressed out.
Okay, yeah, I can only imagine. I also wanted to congratulate you on the accomplishments. Getting with the staffing that you have, and obviously your officers and you are really professional, working hard, and keeping our city safe. And certainly I appreciate that. There's that feeling throughout the city that it's a safe place. And I wanted to also mention about the outreach that you do, the coffee with the cop and all that. I think in this day and age, especially where I think it's unfortunate because I think police officers got kind of a bad rap in 2020 with George Floyd thing. And then, worked really hard to build community relations that we always had in this community, but even more so. And now people are afraid again. And I appreciate all the efforts that you're putting forth for our community to feel safe, to make the call if they're in trouble. I think that's critical. And I appreciate that. I wanted to ask about the core team. We've got one, that's Jeff McGee, right?
Yeah, I know we call it a team, but sometimes a team can be one.
Yeah.
It was conceived as a team. How about that?
He works like a team, right? Yeah. So do you, and the kind of calls he gets, he's got over 500 or something service calls. How is it possible that he can manage all of that?
So he's busy. It's a lot of proactive contacts throughout the day, right? His day is responding to some of those calls that come in, but as you saw, a majority of them are the proactive contacts of him being out there in the areas of the community with people who are experiencing homeless or mental health crises, and just going and having the conversations with them, checking in with them, seeing if they need services. So he's really busy doing a lot of that stuff on a day-to-day basis, which really becomes beneficial when those crisis situations happens because he's already built the rapport with those members of the community, so he can show up and diffuse situations or even step in before police response is required.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. The other thing is about the staffing. I think it's interesting that you could get over 700 applicants, but they don't, I mean, what's happening there? Why aren't they qualifying?
There's a lot of reasons that factor into that. I give a lot of credit to Lieutenant Rodriguez, who's somewhere in the audience behind me. He sifts through those applications, schedules a lot of interviews, and our staff that sits in on those interviews on a regular basis. Some is people not understanding what the job is. Some of it is they don't have what we believe are the skills necessary to do the job effectively or do the job effectively here in Healdsburg. We've put a lot of people into background, and only a fraction of those are being successful in completing the background for a number of reasons. As Councilmember Kelly said, this isn't the staffing is not unique to Healdsburg. It's something that is across the state. But one thing I'm not willing to compromise on is the quality of applicants that we are looking to hire. That does make it more difficult as we are seeing it sometimes harder and harder to find people who have backgrounds that are compatible with the line of work that we're doing. But again, we do not want to compromise on that.
And I appreciate that. You don't want to lower your standards at all to hire someone just to fill a position. I understand. But you have filled several in the last several months, right?
We have.
So that's good. So congratulations on that. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, I wanted to say kind of the hidden gem in that whole report was the 700 applicants, which in this day and age for a police force is just amazing that you've created a team, an environment that people want to be a part of, even though they may not have all the skills available. I don't know if you have a little cheat sheet you could put that if you are considering a future in Healdsburg law enforcement, you might consider this path of education or these skill sets, and that not all laws you can participate in California and still have all job positions.
That's why we really try and do that outreach at starting at elementary school level all the way up, is so we can have those conversations when they're young and they still have time to show up to class and do well and all those things that they should be doing if they want to get into law enforcement.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you and recognize that because I know a lot of departments can't find recruits. So it's nice that we have an abundance. So it says a lot about our city and your department, what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great comments and questions. As I think some of you know, I finally took up the offer to do a ride along with the police department, and I'm so glad I did. The timing is great because it's just adjacent to your report, and I just wanted to share a few of my takeaways from that experience. One was that our police officers work really hard. They stay busy, and it's a big responsibility, and they shoulder it with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and I think we should be very grateful for the attention that they put on our community every time they go out there. The other thing that I noticed was they really do have a connection to this community. They know the people, they know the situations, they know the places. They know where situations can happen, and I think that really serves them and us as a community very well. So I think that there's something unique about that, and as Councilmember Higley said, the fact that so many of you are present in our community on and off duty is really meaningful to us. So thank you for that. The other thing is that it's a dangerous and serious job, and I don't want to lose sight of that, and just want to share my gratitude for you. We see exciting reports of somebody who was pulled over with guns and drugs and a history. And we know that any one of those situations could have become a very dark one. And so once again, our gratitude for taking on this very serious work of keeping us safe. I take great pride and I relish the opportunity to brag about our police department, but I think the success that you're seeing and that you're reporting on now really reflects on the professionalism of the whole department, on its diversity, on its connection to the community and its leadership. So thank you, Lieutenant Rodriguez back there. I see you. And everybody really are grateful that Healdsburg has a police department that we can really be proud of.
And I'd be remiss too if I didn't acknowledge our dispatch supervisor who's going through all the dispatch applications as well. So she's out there somewhere and she sifts through a lot of those dispatch applications.
So
yeah.
I kind of feel like ending on that note, but I do have one question, and that's I know on the county level, the emergency management team is looking at ways that they might respond to social unrest, having witnessed what happened in Minneapolis recently. There's an effort there to use their tools and their skills and their outreach in situations like that. And I think probably if something like that were to come to Healdsburg, we would be partnering with the county pretty tightly with that kind of stuff. But is that something that's part of our emergency management platform?
It is, but not in the context that you're describing. The counties, what they're working on is really at that social service level. And being that we're a local municipality and we don't have social service departments, health department, behavioral health, those positions, they're really focusing on that. If we had unrest, we would respond to it in line with our civil unrest procedures. And then we would leverage the county with all those other resources that they'd be bringing in and work in conjunction with them.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if I don't see any other comments, we'll
Do the ride along at night.
do the ride along at night. Okay, well, I would like to do another one, so maybe we'll do it at night. Okay, great. All right, well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on now to city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one announcement and then a whole bunch of calendar reminders for you all this evening. First off, want to share, if you haven't seen it, that the city is partnering with the 49ers to bring flag football to Healdsburg for, I think, the first time. This is a program that'll be open to boys and girls ages 3 through high school, taking place on Sundays starting in mid-April and running through June. Obviously, another fun, innovative program from our community services department. And there will be an informational meeting on that this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the community center if people are interested. But I'm sure we'll be putting out lots of information that helps people participate if they would like to. So that's both an event coming up and I hope a good announcement. We have a lot of events coming. We're in a little bit of a winter quiet period over the next few weeks. So in addition to the info meeting on flag football, we have 2 budget outreach meetings this week, both at the community center at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow will be the meeting in Spanish. Wednesday will be the meeting in English. If you're tracking all of these, that means if you want to attend the flag football meeting and the budget meeting on Wednesday, unfortunately, you'll have to choose. But there will be opportunities on both fronts for people to get information if they can't make the meetings. Also a reminder that we have budget outreach tools. They're out in the community right now. Thank you to the mayor for filming a video to help get people engaged and bring people in. We've tried to craft a few different ways that people can participate. One thing we've learned is people might have different appetites for how much detail they want in what's obviously a very complicated process. So we've tried to offer that in different options, depending on how much time they want to spend. So there's a short version and a longer version if people want to dig in. But we hope lots of people will use those tools to provide feedback. And we'll be out in the community with these meetings and some other opportunities, just trying to be with people and get feedback in more informal ways also. So Again, we have budget community meetings this week, tomorrow and Wednesday. Other events that are coming up a week from tomorrow, March 10th, will be a community meeting related to the De Luna Multicultural Center concepts. You'll recall that we have an ambitious plan for a lot of improvements to the community center. And our partners, Corazon and the Healthcare Foundation, are joining us to host a meeting to start getting feedback really aimed at how we deliver the next phases of this project, which is something we're eager to move forward with. So that'll be Tuesday, March 10th at 6 p.m. And then that following week, the following Tuesday, the 17th, is St. Patrick's Day. So get ready to get up early and join us at 7 a.m. for the parade. I don't think many need much of an explanation about what that is. Just a reminder that it's coming. The following weekend, March 21st and 22nd, is our opening weekend for the Foley Family Community Pavilion. That will have a pop-up farmers market on Saturday morning, the Vamos Market Saturday afternoon, and the city's Housing and Community Resource Fair that Sunday at noon. So I know this is all too much to keep track of, but rest assured we'll be putting this information out there. And then lastly, one more, that following Monday, the 23rd at I think 5:30, will be a community meeting hosted by SMART about their upcoming construction, bringing the train to Healdsburg. We know there's lots of questions and interest in that. So that will also be at the community center. So I think that's 3 weeks from today. And I think I just reeled off 10 or 11 events. So we hope everybody will have a chance to come out for those things that are of interest. And we look forward to working through this busy season of events. So I'm happy to take any questions. If I messed up any of those dates, I'll try to correct it, but otherwise happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Yeah, it's shaping up to be a very busy month, but a very good month. I just want to echo that we are excited and hopeful to get lots of public input on our budget process. So please come to the meeting or use the online tool if you're so inclined. We'd love to hear from you. Anybody have any questions or comments for the city manager? Okay, now moving on to public comments on items on the consent calendar and non-agenda items. This time is set aside to receive comments from the public regarding matters of general interest, not on the agenda, but related to City Council business. Pursuant to the Brown Act, however, the City Council cannot consider any issues or take action on any requests during this comment period. Welcome.
Hi, Mayor Herod. My name is Walter Kieser. I'm actually here for the Housing Trust item, but I'll take this opportunity. I am representing the Russian River Property Owners Association, who has an application before the Local Agency Formation Commission to form a water district in Alexander Valley. Over the past 5 years, we've worked on this with the water agency and have made presentations here at council and also in Cloverdale. We are talking about preserving the water supply to all of the agencies here through the use of a groundwater sustainability agency. But what's missing is representation for the agricultural water users in Alexander Valley. So I'm asking for the city to consider writing a letter of support for this application before LAFCO, and I will submit the template letter to the city manager for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing I would just like to say, I would like to thank Chief Jenkins and his team for the kidnapping case. The kidnapped persons were personal friends of mine, and it was an amazing job of policing. And the machine helped. I just want to make that point, and it's close to me because you're very close friends of mine. It's a very, very tragic thing, but it ended as well as it could because of the work that your police department does. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm Sarah Pittenger. I know quite a few of you, and I'm here for something kind of fun, and it's about beach volleyball. Sand volleyball in Healdsburg. So it's something, I'm a parent of a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old here in town. And my 13-year-old daughter is really into volleyball and recently started playing beach volleyball for a club down in Santa Rosa called Aloha. And I've just grown to really appreciate the sport. And it's really great for a lot of reasons. One is that it is incredibly good for fitness for teenagers, for adults, for old people. It's really soft on your joints. It's much better than a hard court floor. And it is really great for young women, girls of all ages, especially. I've seen my daughter just get all of this incredible confidence, teamwork, working together with another young woman of her age, strategizing on the court, really gaining confidence, learning to advocate for themselves with referees. So it's just been really, really cool to see. And one thing we don't have in Healdsburg is we don't have sand courts. So we go to Santa Rosa a couple times a week. We play in tournaments now all over Northern California, and we go to Southern California. And it's just the sport is growing a lot in popularity. And in fact, Santa Rosa Junior College just brought a beach volleyball program on board. A few of the young ladies from Aloha Beach Volleyball Club have gotten, they're now playing D1 college or committing to D1 schools in California. So it's really becoming more and more important. But there's just so much more beyond that. I mean, just watching these girls and women of different ages play together, it's just really empowering. And I also am the mom of a teenage son. And he would love to play too, and I just really feel the need for a lot of us would love to have more places for teenagers to hang out in Healdsburg. So I was hoping, excuse me, to just lend my vote and that of a lot of other parents that I know that we would really love to have a forecourt sand court in Healdsburg where we can host tournaments where the kids can go out and play, have fun. It's all ages. It's great for middle-aged folks like myself, also for the little ones. So it's just a really lovely thing to have in the community and something. I'm also a winery family. So we would love to have another reason for people to come to Healdsburg beyond just the wine region. And seeing these tournaments play out in other areas, it's just incredible to see families, young people from all over coming to regions to play this extremely wonderful, natural, low impact, sustainable sport. So just want to put that out there. Thank you, guys.
Healdsburg City Council is going viral online right now because the cannabis community is livid with you all regarding the selection of permit applicants. And they paid me over $1,000 to be here today to tell you to act right. I want to know why the Fair Political Practices Commission needed to extend now for almost 4 weeks the investigation into the claims I brought forward regarding corruption in the approval process. And I want to backtrack that entire process. So Councilman Edwards, you joined the council in 2022. I'm just communicating. I'd love to have a conversation after. I really like you. I want to support our Black leaders here since your colleague clearly doesn't. So that being said, it's been brought to my attention that your product was not moving in Willits. So you came out here, and then I see that one of the applicants who's running for supervisor, Russell Green, you're endorsing him, I believe. And that's on his Facebook. It's actually screenshotted. I have it. So I want to know what that relationship is because he applied for Cure Wellness out here. And so I want to understand better what was going on in Mendocino County before you came out here because I'm here to advocate for Mercy Wellness. I do buy my weed from them. They have a beautiful lounge. Mr. Brandon Levine is a Jewish man. So I do not appreciate the comments about anti-Semitism. I'm here to speak on the truth. So there is a Jewish mafia that has whole monopoly on the cannabis industry. They're literally connected with Israel. And then there's Jewish individuals who are not a part of that mafia. So Ms. Kelly got, donations from Soulful, violation of the Levine Act. You guys, again, are still under investigation. So Mr. Edwards, it was brought to my attention. I'd love to chat after. A woman, I believe she's Pomo, Sky, and her partner Justin, they're saying that you, Figueroa, and somebody, consultant of yours, basically set them up and took over their business operation. So I don't know what's going on. This is all over Instagram. So I'd really like to have a conversation about it, but I'm trying to make things as transparent as possible. I've sent emails, nobody responds. It's all over the internet. So we need to get answers about this. But when we're talking about marginalized communities, and then we have homegirl Ariel reading that proclamation. I was in your lovely Alexander Valley recently, sitting there reading to try to advocate for water rights for our Native American brothers and sisters. And guess what? 3 deputies came and escorted me out of that building. So I am suing the sheriffs. That was a violation of my rights, racially profiled. I have this racist white woman behind me that's been cackling and wants to support Ariel. So saying to find Jesus, that's not anti-Semitic. That is my faith. So homegirl, I pray for you, you know, like I pray for you every day. God bless you. I hope you find Jesus because you're lying and you're a thief. And I hope you act right. God bless you.
I just want to open up by saying this is my first council meeting for 2026. And I wanted to just mention that I have some blood oranges on the counter that I brought from my home that I live in Healdsburg. And I pay a lot of taxes, and I'm glad to be here right now, right this second, to calm it down and to talk about what matters. And what matters is supporting what we have and to not spend time thinking all that stuff. So I just want to thank you for serving. I want to thank you for hiring Ray Hawley to be our town's messenger again, because every time I go on the news to look and see what's happening in my city, I have a familiar face. So I appreciate the communication piece that was put together in the last few months. I also want to stay in this. I want you to stay in this. I want you to stay positive. I don't think we always agree, and I don't always support what's up here. And I am racist. I'm racist, and so are you. I'll go there later if you'd like to meet me. Okay, then you're not racist. Thank you. So this is my turn now. This is my turn. Okay, she was in my home a lot. If you remember, I actually helped her her whole campaign, Skylar Palacios, but thank you. So staying in this, stay in it, despite the strife and the division and the truly unnecessary, inappropriate attacks at you. Just don't do anything but serve where you started from, which is your heart and your soul. And I was up on Fitch Mountain today, and it was wonderful going up there. And I just want to thank everyone for that opportunity to go up to that place and look down. Mayor Herod, thank you. I appreciate you. And Mayor Kelly, when you were our mayor, I remember telling you how much I appreciated the way you ran a meeting and the way you shine. And I don't always agree with you, you know that. But I definitely appreciate you all. And I want to bring it back to that, because this public comment can be under the guise of First Amendment rights. But having served and sat where you sat, don't worry, you got this, okay? And we're going to always have a lively discourse, but we don't have to be rude, and we don't have to publicize lies about people and intentions. And just relax, because I live here, and this is a very big moment right for me, because this is my public comment. I get to speak without being interrupted. We listen to you, you listen to me. That's what happens in democracy. I taught for 38 years in Santa Rosa City Schools, and I definitely get turn taking as a teacher. So thank you for serving. The blood oranges are to show that there's juice in the world, and it sometimes comes out red, but red doesn't have to be negative. In fact, it's going to have to be positive, because we all have it together. We're all together here. We got the same blood. So love you all, and I had to speak. Thank you, Mayor, and I'm happily here tonight. And I'm a little emotional because I don't like the negativity. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi guys, I'm Don Gibble Hernandez, and I love Healdsburg. I think it's one of the best boards you've had in many, many years. Thank you to you, Chief Jenkins. You did an incredible, excellent report. I lived in LA for a long time. I went to those meetings, and they were always confused about what they were saying. You weren't confused at all. So bravo to you. And bravo to this community to have you here, because of the statistics, like somebody said earlier, I think it was one of you. It was you, I think. this place is a better place because of you. And that wasn't why I was coming here to praise you at all or to comment how wonderful you were. I'm here in a more calmer way than my friend Adina to say that Mercy is an amazing, I'm getting a little emotional here because it's the process of everything, even in Hillsburg, is so, I don't know if red tape is the right word, but I've been sober, clean and sober for 34 years. That's a long time. And I've sponsored a lot of people because I was 21 when I got clean and sober. A lot of word of mouth, a lot of parents who are in the program have me talk to their kids. I was a high school teacher for a long time. So I get why they use and drink at 15, 16 years old. It's really sad, but it's very common. And I don't really like going to places like medical marijuana dispensaries because I obviously can't partake with my friends because marijuana is a controlled substance, and in Alcoholics Anonymous, you're not supposed to use one. I've had many illnesses in the last 3 years that I shouldn't have at 56 years old, and a lot of doctors want me to use medical marijuana, but because of my beliefs in Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't use them. But when friends want me to join them for birthday parties or for wedding receptions at these dispensaries, which is, I can't believe, a common thing, I just show up, say hello, and leave because I'm not comfortable there. But Mercy has a lounge now. I don't know if you've heard of it, in Cotati. And my friend Adina brought me there. And I was very comfortable there. They have non-alcoholic drinks. They have food. It's very nice. And I don't know what the process is for Mercy to appeal the decision of not having them in Hillsburg. But like he said earlier, they're short-staffed. And the more successful a business is in Hillsburg, the more taxes you will have. And my friends opened up a movie theater down the street. And hope you guys go to the Academy Awards. I kind of emailed one of you about having a fundraiser, but now I found out they are having one. So the more people that go to this event in 2 weeks at the True West Movie Theater, the more money they'll make, the more money you will all make. And it'll be a fun thing. But yeah, some people don't really get Adina. She does get emotional, but she's coming from a good place. She's helping me deal with a situation that, I'm dealing with from my childhood, and now I'm running out of time. I could talk forever. But again, thank you for coming tonight. You were very informative. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment tonight? All right, we're going to close public comment. To have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I need to recuse from, I'm recusing from item 6J as I live within the landscaping and lighting assessment district. So when that one comes up, I'll scooch my chair back.
Okay, so we will entertain a motion on all items except for 6J on the consent calendar. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Councilmember Hagley,
This was everything except J. Oh, yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor Harrod.
Yes, and then we'll allow, thank you, he's recused. We will have a motion on item 6J, please.
I move we approve item 6J on the consent calendar.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards,
Yes.
Mayor Harrod.
Yes, thank you, everybody. All right, now moving on to public hearings. There are none. There's no old business, but there's new business. The Housing Land Trust. So we're going to welcome Housing Director Stephen Sotomayor, community members Joe Naokas and Richard Berg. Looks like Stephen's going to start off, and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Stephen Sotomayor, Housing Director. Today, I'm excited to bring forward an item is an update on work that we've been doing in looking at forming Housing Land Trust. We have a great community group here today that is interested in pursuing this, and I just wanted to give a little bit of background and hand it over to them to explain the work that they've been working on. Next slide, please. So the purpose of today is that the council set a goal to explore a housing land trust concept. On March 3rd, the council reviewed a trust and land trust models in which I gave a presentation about the various different models and how they could fit into our overall housing strategy. And from that meeting, we got direction to take a look at models that would come from the community to see if there was interest within the community to form such an organization that could complement not only the city's housing goals, but the community-wide goals around housing and affordability, as well as workforce housing topics that we've been discussing for quite some time. I've been meeting with the community members since that time, and we've been exploring quite a few models, meeting with different organizations, national organizations around trust, local developers, and community members that all have shown a lot of interest in spurring this type of activity in the community. Tonight is just an update. There's no real ask out of this right now, but I think that the group is looking for some feedback from the council, as well as the ability to get some initial guidance and also pose some questions. Next slide. So in the housing context, what this would do is that we have a future challenge. We've been doing very well at meeting our RHNA numbers. We've been doing very well at producing housing by using state grants, federal grants, and available land that the city has. Moving forward, looking at 2031 for the next housing cycle, we don't have that same availability of resources. One of them being the most important is available land for development, or to ask a developer to come and partner with the city, much like Dry Creek or Saggio Hills. And so that is one of the major challenges I see going forward. The other challenge that we have is that a lot of programs from the state or federal government focus on what we would call lower income households, or 80% and below. Oftentimes it's 60% and below of the area median income. There's a lot of money out there, but what there isn't money for is the product that's missing and the market's not developing, which would be, our above moderate, all the way to what we call the missing middle or middle income households. Ideas that were talked about in Measure O and looking at solutions. Well, one of those solutions is to be able to find available land and to have an organization that can focus on this type of product. It's been done in other cities. It's a proven model. This is not necessarily new, but there are unique challenges to our community that other communities don't face. So this is a very unique kind of fitted model that would have to come forward. And finally, our housing element definitely outlines this as a goal. Our pro-housing designation, we have mentioned that looking at a trust or some kind of entity that could expand funding opportunities and also partner with developers to continue to develop housing has been outlined as something the city is pursuing. Next slide, please. So a lot of the benefits I may have already mentioned. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but nonprofit trusts have a little more flexibility than what a typical city housing department has. They would have the ability to acquire and hold land. They could go partner with developers and develop different types of housing product that may not be available to cities due to funding. But some of the bigger things that they can do is access private and I'm not going to say that right, private and foundational money, I'll just say, instead of fumbling over that, funding that is not necessarily always available to cities, but maybe in partnership with organizations that have a designation from the IRS as a nonprofit or not-for-profit organization. And finally, they have a little more flexibility in supporting moderate income housing than the city does, as our funding sources often are aimed towards extremely low up to very low income families and individuals. There's this, one way I look at this is that you don't plant a tree today because you need shade today, but you plant a tree because in 10 years you might really enjoy that shade and it's going to get a little bit hotter. This is just another tool in the toolbox, and I think it could greatly complement the existing work that we do. And it is something that has been proven, as I mentioned before. There are funds out there. We have met with people that have already shown interest in the idea that we could have such an organization, and so I think that this would be something that is important in our future in producing housing. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my portion and allow the group to come forward and speak. I will say one thing is that the community support when you go out and people that are interested in this is high. And the amount of technical expertise and the amount of people that we have that are willing to do something is very high. And that's very encouraging because it's often we can talk about solutions, but it's very difficult to find people that are willing to put the work into those solutions. And this group has really put in the work, and I'm excited for them to be able to update you today. Next steps on this is that the group will outline a little bit about what they've been working on. They are continuing with the community outreach, and as mentioned in our last presentation in March, any kind of support for such an organization would be, funneled through the housing department as a request and then brought back to the council at the appropriate time. But today is a great chance for you to be able to hear from the community members and hear about the work that they've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. So as Dr. Sotomayor mentioned, it's been about a year since we first had these conversations about a community land trust. And in that year, we've been doing quite a lot of outreach and discussions. You'll notice, first of all, the name. We're calling ourselves the Healdsburg Housing Trust. It's not just a land trust. Yes, land is going to be a big part of it, but it really is. We think of it as a kind of like a Swiss Army knife kind of concept. It could be one of many things. So first of all, it's a housing trust, and our objective is to enable affordable housing for Healdsburg area workforce households. Next slide. So we have the path in front of us is very challenging. It's very long and complicated. You and your predecessors have really blazed a good trail. I'll be using some analogies throughout the presentation, and I'll start with the analogy, the metaphor of a trail. You and generations of your predecessors have blazed a trail that has taken us to this point where we have been very successful, more successful than a lot of jurisdictions. And there is a significant amount of community excitement and trust and validation of what you've done so far. And for that, we appreciate all your efforts. And we're here to keep that journey going forward, right? In the process, with all the folks that have been participating, supporting these efforts, we have gathered quite an intrepid group of co-travelers, and the members of the community have really stepped up. We have a lot of different, a wide variety of participants. From local subject matter experts like architects, planners, small infill developers, real estate lawyers, but also committed community residents. And really, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that level of involvement from the community. So I really want to reinforce what Dr. Sotomayor said. It's an incredible outreach of support from that community, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is. There were times when in the course of having these conversations over the past several months, when I was really just kind of disheartened, to be frank, with a lot of the economic challenges. We don't have a lot of these housing opportunities in front of us because it is difficult. Because it is challenging. And there was really several moments when I really was just, what's the point? I can't do this. I can't do it at all. And there was a moment when really I was walking in front of Little Saint, and someone, Gretchen Gausniaki, who is with us now today, grabbed me on the street and said, "Hey, I heard what you're doing from Director Sotomayor. I love what you're doing. I'm all in. just let me know how it can help. And it's those little subtle votes of confidence that really have helped propel me forward, and I'm really appreciative of that effort. But so we are community members. We are not city, except for the advice from the city staff. We are aligned. We are independent. We like to think of ourselves as being very nimble, very responsive to what the market is, what the opportunities are in front of us, and a lot more. And also, but even though we are independent, we are aligned with the city's housing goals. Next slide. Why we are here. I think sometimes it could be obvious, but I think I want to underscore the fact that we're concerned about our neighbors. We're concerned about the diversity of the housing that we have in Healdsburg. We're concerned about the future of the community. To be honest, one of the things that I've always cherished about Healdsburg is that, you know, when we talk about small town feel, right? There's a lot of definitions, but one of the things that I have felt strongly about is what I call the Matheson Street effect. So if when you picture Matheson Street, right, you've got on that one block, you have multi-million-dollar homes literally within stone's throw of, small apartment block buildings, right? And everybody's getting along fine. We are living together. We are sharing these experiences. We're neighbors. That to me is what Healdsburg is all about. We cannot sustain that community identity without nurturing that diverse housing. And like I said, there's a passion among the community to support, to explore this flexible community-based tool to pursue this mission. With that, I'd like to pass it over to Richard to talk about the mission.
Good evening. So 21 years ago, several hundred people at an event in the plaza called Town Picnic and Concert answered a question on poster paper: what single change would most improve the quality of your life in Healdsburg? The answer was affordable housing. And that was in 2005, an event that was launched with the opening of the general plan, which was ratified and installed 4 years later. So when Joe asked me if I was interested in working to get a housing trust, he asked me about a land trust, but we've changed the name to make it clearer about the range of opportunities that we think a nonprofit focused on solving the housing challenge in our town could do. So you can read the mission. I'm not going to read it out loud, but the idea is to build an entity with nonprofit credentials that can build the workforce housing that we're lacking in this town. I wondered when Chief Jenkins spoke about 700 applicants, how many who got through the initial screening realized what their commute might be because they might not be able to afford a place to live in Healdsburg. It would be interesting if there was data about that in terms of qualified and desired applicants who realized that this was a very expensive place to live. So, next slide. The concept is to build an organization with the resources to acquire land for the purpose of holding it for future opportunities to build. When the market changes, when interest rates change, when donations are available to build a fund that would allow a nonprofit to act quickly when an opportunity presents itself, even if that's only to option a piece of property in order to investigate whether it pencils out when you start talking about how many units, how many square feet, how tall, etc. So the partners for such an entity would be public housing programs as well as private entities. And the goal is to support long-term affordability. And because we are a nonprofit, the opportunities to find sources the city can't access are quite real. Next slide. When it's not, the Housing Trust is not to build city-owned housing. It's not to replace or compete with the existing affordable housing programs. And it's not bound by public funding limitations or private profit requirements. So we're not thinking of entering the game of tax credit allocations through what has supported much of the nonprofit housing we built over the last 21 years. Next slide. Joe will continue.
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the when exploring these concepts, it became clear to me that we couldn't go to the donor community with a straight face and ask for money if we couldn't say with, that these options are feasible, are not feasible. So it really needs the question becomes really paramount. If we want to convince these donors, if we want to convince contributors to commit the resource to the effort, we really need to demonstrate that their investment will deliver the housing outcomes that we want. So in the course of this, I assembled a team, a quick initial working group. Jim Hyde, Jonathan Perlman, and Stephen Sotomayor, the four of us, we evaluated a proof of concept property, the 1010 University Street. That's the big property that's across from the Healdsburg playing field, the Healdsburg High School playing fields, just south of Fitch Mountain School. And Jim Hyde brought his infill development experience in Healdsburg. We had an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of formulas. We could turn the knobs of all the various variables to see how this could pencil out, how this potential property could pencil out as an option for affordable housing. And the truth was it couldn't, really couldn't. And it was this demonstrated the challenges of this problem. There are so many different dimensions to the challenge. Jen Close from Generation Housing, she brought another metaphor to the table, which is, she said there's no silver bullet solution, but there's really it has to address these things. We need a silver buckshot solution, a silver buckshot strategy. So a lot of different things all at once. In addition to the various to the negative challenges, I also had a lot of very positive conversations with other entities throughout in this global we. I only call it a global we of lots of some regional, statewide, and even countrywide initiatives. There's a lot of interesting things, a lot of creative things happening. I'm convinced that with all these different solutions specifically to the construction cost problem, that the needle will move. We're going to get to the point where I can go back to Jim Hyde's spreadsheet and say, oh yeah, we can get because of 3D house printing, we can get the construction cost a little just down far enough to make these things pencil out. Because of Infilla, there's a company that's working to work with city planning departments to upgrade make with this intelligent software solutions, shorten the entitlement process. So great. So now the holding costs can shrink. I can turn that knob. So all these different things happening. I'm convinced that the needle will move, but maybe not right away. So the question is, what do we do now? We can't do anything without holding the land. So at the very first, let's start working on acquiring the land, and then focus on the cost containment in parallel. So next slide. So we have a vision of how the organization would look like, and it really kind of comes in 3 dimensions, right? We have a core governing board. When that core governing board really kind of establishes the governance, right? It's both from does it reflect the interests and the needs of the community, but also does it lend a sense of legitimacy, financial legitimacy? Do we have the right decision makers on that board to say, to evaluate projects and say, yeah, this is gonna work. This is a feasible solution. So at that core governing board, we have both the community legitimacy and the fiscal legitimacy represented there, right? We also have, and we'll ask you to consider a city council representation on that board if you're interested, ex officio, non-voting representation. A second dimension, of course, is fundraising. We need to have a strong body to actually raise the funds we need. And then also to advise the policymaking board on how to align our strategy, the governing board strategy, with the fundraising realities, right? And then thirdly, the technical working group. And this is comprised of various subject matter experts in the field that can advise on the overall acquisition strategy, on a pop-up basis, evaluate actual properties that can become available, and in parallel work on that cost containment strategy, so we can adjust those knobs accordingly in the long term. And again, we envision some participation from the city staff in that dimension, from the folks like Director Sotomayor, Director Guyven, or perhaps the city attorney, as necessary. Next slide. So another analogy, another metaphor I'm bringing from the software development world, which is that of a roadmap and scaling. So the roadmap that we have, we envision four phases of that roadmap with kind of varying levels of focus focus of vision, right? At the very clearest and very most immediate is phase 0, which is where we are right now. The tasks are we know what the tasks are. We know exactly what we need to do, and that is to complete the formation of the organization. So get the 501c3 registered, get us in place to start accepting funds, and really and of course formalize the actual governance board. The next phase is phase 1, where we actually start acquiring land. So in this phase, we will finalize that acquisition strategy, and then perform that outreach to the communities. Go out to the realtors, go out to the property owners, go out to the funders, and say, this is what we're doing. This is our strategy. This is what we're looking for. And in that phase, the goal would be to acquire at least one property that is feasible to develop. And a little bit further down the road is phase 2, where it's it's further down. We have a pretty clear idea of what that looks like, and that is to deliver Act 1 pilot housing project. So this it's all academic until we can actually actually deliver results, right? So the idea would be okay, great. Let's find one pilot project, complete some level of completion of that, which would be, again, it's out there. We don't know for sure, but now we're thinking like at least entitlement, at least initiate the development of that one project. In parallel, continue working on the acquisition work, and continue working on the cost containment work. Phase 3. And I'll bring the software term scale out. Scale out, which means essentially taking that success, the success from a pilot project and repeating, right? Taking the same type of project and repeating it iteratively with each time becoming more and more efficient, more and more effective, right? And at the same time, in parallel, continuing to work on the acquisition and the cost containment. And then finally, phase 4, and this is really kind of where this is, if you're talking about that roadmap and the vision and the focus, this is not close, not near, not even further. This is beyond the horizon. But that in that phase is where we start talking about a scale up, where we verticalize, where we have not just repeating the same project, but actually expanding our concept of what a project is, right? And so maybe instead of just a fourplex that we build on a parcel in Healdsburg, it could be who knows what. It could be a mixed residential and retail somewhere. It could be maybe building out several dispersed sites. It could be think big, housing at the smart station, right? So that would be that phase 4 kind of like, I don't know what could be there. We don't know until we get there. Next slide. So at this point, I was kind of reinforcing what Dr. Sotomayor had brought up, which is what we're kind of asking for you to think about, right? At this stage, we are looking at investment in 3 different areas, right? We've got investment in terms of volunteer time from the community members, right? This is the folks who are involved in the board, the folks who are involved in the working group, the folks who come to give us advice, right? That's all volunteer time investment, right? Also, we're looking for some professional guidance, some city staff investment time, continued insights, amazing insight from Dr. Sotomayor, and as necessary from other staff. And then there's actual hard costs, out of pocket formation and operational expenses. So this is things like filing fees, marketing and communication materials, collateral, website, physical content stuff, things like that. Membership dues, perhaps shared office space, all this hard costs, right? Professional services, legal counsel, right? So those are the kind of the investments that we need from the various angles of the community. Really, and with regard to the actual hard costs, the startup funds, and also, well, of course, obviously the seed funds for the actual acquisition of properties, we envision establishing some kind of community matching model. So if the city were to come, we would, of course, work with some sort of model that says, okay, community, city's putting up some, let's get some matching contributions from the community. So really, tonight we are looking for your any input, questions about where we've been so far, where we're headed. Any thoughts on suggestions? Areas where you could, especially if we're going to come back, like what are the things that what additional questions you like or concerns you'd like us to address if we were to come back, and of course your blessing to continue forward in this journey, and yeah, to come back at a future time for that a more specific ask. So with that, really it's questions, and also I have a whole crew behind me, right? So we have quite a few people, and if either of you would like to jump in and respond, don't hold back.
Thank you. It's really great to get that update on what you've been doing. You've been doing a lot, and really appreciate hearing from you. I'd like to go ahead and open up to public comment real quick, and then there might be some questions that come out of that we can look at, and we'll take it from there. So is there anyone in the audience tonight who'd like to speak for a public comment on this item?
I'm calm. I'm calm and collected. So into peace right now. Okay. But peace starts with justice, right? So here we are. Justice. Will it pencil out? And then the word trust. So I'm way in. I'm so proud and so grateful for the time and energy and the director, Sotomayor, being a true believer that he is. He just left the room. How symbolic. But I am very grateful for the time that has been put forth. I'm going to meet with Director Sotomayor tomorrow because, as everybody remembers, I was anti-O, and this council was really trying to put something forward that could help that missing middle. And so, yes, Housing Land Trust. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I'm glad there's a group. Didn't even know it existed until yesterday when I got a couple calls and people said, come to the meeting. So here I am. Will it pencil out? How do we align the strategy with financial property? Healdsburg and affordable housing. So when I left council, I remember saying I wanted to be a stand-up comic. And I remember everybody thinking that wouldn't be a bad idea for you, Bridgette. Just go do some open mics in the city where you'd be very popular, probably the East Bay. Go to Oakland, people are drinking. But the point is affordable housing to me is an oxymoron, okay? I don't think it's any mystery at all, and I really revere Richard Berg, and I'm not being facetious here, but I do think 2005 was a year to talk about affordable housing, and I want this to work. I do think there's possibilities, and I will be behind it, and why wouldn't I be? However, I want to talk about who's involved in it. One of the things that came up for me when I read everything is it's a great opportunity, but it's the people behind it that are leading it that will matter. And y'all don't want to get involved in this too much because you did get involved a lot with Measure O and spent money, and there was a law case, and you were unfairly judged by people, and it wasn't fair what happened with Measure O, but here we are. So this group I absolutely support, but I would caution you, including the people behind me, that it's a great opportunity, but it's got to be people who are focused on the public good. And what does that look like today? Why are people donating their time and meeting with Sotomayor right now, a public servant? And potentially they could be self-interested people that's not leaders that are in it for the public good, but maybe for development. And with names like Gallagher being tossed around in our town, I'll just say it openly, I'm not going to film myself, but I'm concerned about where money comes from in this town and how it filtrates into the kind of buildings that are happening in our town. So please know I'm for this. I believe the people that are here are good people, but I don't like some of the names already mentioned. And as a citizen and a property tax payer, I want the kind of housing that'll address the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Welcome.
Hello, I'm Mark McMullen, Parkland Farms. I want to approach this from the standpoint of the creative economy. I was at a meeting down in San Francisco today where the California Arts Council was talking about the strategic plan for the creative economy. And one of that is about displacement and is about talking about creating artist housing. And I look at the land trust and I look at the goals that they have, and I can see that we could be acquiring the lands and then figuring out how this development and how these sort of things can do in order to help the workforce, but also the artists. Because one of the important things about Healdsburg is that as the prices go up for housing, then you lose this artistic soul that we have because people can't afford to live here. So I think it's really important because these are not silos, these are all together. Talking about the arts, talking about housing, talking about the artistic development within the arts within these developments is very important. And I think the land trust is a very important way for the community to get our hands on the land, to get our hands to really have the development happen in the way that we wish. And I think that thinking about it from the creative economy as well, that's going to be something that's going to help bolster this city as other things are starting to dissipate. So I just want to say that I'm very much in favor of a land trust, and I think that it is a much kind of larger sort of thing as you think about it for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll come back for questions if you'd like to come forward. Joe, thank you. Okay, who would like to go first there? David?
First, thank you for the presentation. I have a little bit of nostalgia here as I see Councilmember Emeritus Noyokas right there and Mayor Emeritus Matzel out there, and Ray's sitting over here. Well, normally he'd be over there, but and it does take me back. I remember early on, and both of you were on council, and Measure S, I think it just, I'm getting all mixed up, but Measure S, I think it just passed. We had very little funding. And I remember just having a conversation with the city manager about, you know, at the time up in Parkland Farms, a house that sold for $500,000 or $600,000. And I was thinking, okay, how can we make that approachable for people, affordable? Maybe we can use this Measure S funding to buy the land, and then somebody else can buy the house, like the typical structure. But then we look at the cost and how much would be allocated to that one unit that would only benefit one family. That was the biggest challenge that we had at the time. And then kind of pivoted to, you know, the apartment buildings that came up, and all right, we can leverage these funds and now we can use that to help acquire multiple units versus just one. So I have a lot of interest in you know what you're doing, and I like that it's kind of community led. I think you've got a number of experts, and I mean Jim Hyde has actually gone through the process here locally, so I think there's a lot of experience that can be brought just from the navigating things. I like the idea of the ex officio board participation by council. I think that's a good idea. Just, you know, at some level, I'm not saying me, I think any one of us would be great on that. And then, I mean, what would the formal request for action look like? Like, what would that be? Like, what can we, if we say, yeah, we all like this, like what are you kind of noodling around there in your head right now?
Money.
Okay.
Money for, again, operational expenses, with support for operational expenses, right? So there, and we're a lean group, right? We're talking about not a lot. Really, most of that would be for legal counsel, consulting, you know, professional services. So not, you know, that's required, you know. So not a lot of money for the operational help. And again, we'd be matching, so we could, I know we've already had people members of the community who've expressed an interest in helping at a small level, right? So great, we can leverage that and get some, and help with that operational funding. The commitment from you to help to continue with the staff time, right? And have some level of staff support for the kinds of things that might come up. I imagine that we'll have, as soon as, especially as we get into the pilot phase, getting Director Diven's insights on some of the you know, the entitlement planning and approvals process. It would be instrumental, right? And then obviously the seed funds, the actual acquisition funds, right? So that's where you know, we are going to need at least, you know, a good, you know, chunk of money to really goose the machine going, right? So having you be able to say, we're, in addition to the operational stuff, yeah, we're willing to put in a, you know, one part of a multi-part matching grant for that initial seed acquisition funding. So that's really the kinds of things we're going to come back to you with. But you know, what we want to do is have a little bit more of a specific budget that we can demonstrate with where the operational money is going to go. So that will be part of that presentation, right? So.
So I guess this question would be for staff then. If that's something that we're interested in. And we've got budget tools now online. Everybody can play around with the budget. I'm assuming that we could use Measure S funds. Granted, they're limited and we've seen, I mean, they're stretched. But is that where you would look to fund, like the staff time would then come out of Measure S funding? How would you look at that?
This is not much different in how I work with Burbank Housing or other nonprofit developers. I think it falls squarely within, the housing director's job to meet with community organizations or to meet with nonprofit developers to look at potential housing projects. So I don't see that being necessarily a strain on time nor on budget. It's part of just kind of the job description. I would say that, for any individual seed money pending, a budget, I think operational startup is a pretty common way for cities to spur this kind of organization to get them started, generally matched by community members. And as far as, seed money for acquisition, we do have money that potentially could go that direction if the land was correct and it aligned. I think what the lens you would have to put it through from the housing department is this in alignment with what the city needs to do, and is it in alignment with what the community? And those sometimes could be a state housing goal versus a community housing goal. And we would have to look at how that balances out as far as what we have to produce. But I think in general, this aligns very closely.
Well, and I think from our standpoint, we would need to know the details. It couldn't be just like you're talking about a specific example, like that would be really helpful. I feel like for us to look at and go, okay, here's the plan, and here's the ask. So it's kind of broken down. The other question I had was, under this housing land trust model, could we require our local preference policy to run with anything that we do?
So I
with
think
this?
I could take it. I've thought about that because I had a feeling you would ask. I think the answer is yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point, is that we would be we're trying to align with what you all are trying to do, right? So I know that we had when I was on council, we spent a lot of effort to come up with a really nicely crafted local preference. And yeah, we want to work with you. We want to be in alignment with you, right? I think the fact that we want to be the best of all worlds, right? We want to have the mission alignment with you without having the constraints of the shackles that you have to endure because of all the regulations that apply to city-led initiatives, right? So really, and then we want to take the best of what the market has to bring, which is, money, investors, impact investors, people who are willing to, who really would love to invest in the community in workforce housing, but they don't want it to be a city-led effort. So great. So now we have these investors that we could so take the best of the private sector and then merge it with the best of the public sector, and move forward.
And then the last thing I wanted to say, and I want to caution before I say this, but during council goals, I want to talk about have a discussion on the feasibility of bonding against the TOT revenue for the parks. My understanding is Measure S funding comes from TOT, so we do have the opportunity to bond against that potentially. Is that correct? And again, I'm saying this with caution. I don't want everybody to go, oh, money.
I think technically we probably have opportunities to borrow against it. I'll do what you didn't ask me to do, is just sound another note of caution relative to our community services TOT fund. This is a pretty small pot. It's a huge amount of money that we do a ton of good work with, but just relative, and therefore the economics of a debt instrument, be it a bond or something else. Obviously we haven't evaluated that, but it's going to be, when we look at our recurring ongoing costs and what's left, it'll be a different equation. So we'd have to look into that.
Yeah, so I'm putting that out there again, not to get people's hopes up or anything. We have these avenues, but to the city manager's point, it's not a huge amount and we have a lot of it spoken for, so there'd be a lot to look at, but I think there's some opportunities here, and I think what would be important for me, obviously, is the local preference piece. If there's any money coming from the city, that we can put that piece in there. Other than that, I think those are my thoughts on this. But thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yeah, thank you. Really pleased to see the progress that you've made. I mean, I know just the conceptual piece of it has probably been hard and to come up with. And when you said you would get it, we're getting discouraged here and there because it's such a big issue and problem. I certainly feel that pain because we experienced it and frequently with the projects that we're doing, and certainly Measure O was one of those. So I also really appreciate the non-government push here, that it's going to be a nonprofit. It won't be run by the city. I think that's an important piece, and that the fact that we've got so many community members already interested and working on it is really, really important. As far as funding is concerned, I guess maybe you could help me understand kind of what your pitch would be to some people where you're trying to get more money to actually purchase the land once you get into that phase. The vision to me seems I'm not sure it's focused yet, maybe on what that would look like.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's a roadmap, and as by definition, for things that are further down that roadmap are fuzzier, right? Number one. Number two, one of the things that we have been thinking about is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the money or the property, right? Because, this 1010 University, wow, if we could put together some sort of a vision of what that could look like, and we can say, hey, investor community, we've got this bird in hand, we got this property, and we did the sketch, the back of the napkin, we could have fit 28 units on that property. And to go to investors and say, wow, these are 28 units of workforce 12160 AMI housing. This is teachers, this is dispatchers and police and nurses. We can get when you have a vision, a specific project that you can get excitement around. That I think that there's something to be said about that. However, the challenge, of course, is we don't always have a project, so we don't have the eggs. We have to focus on chicken. So I think the pitch would be, look, there are all kinds of opportunities. There's all kinds of infill land around Healdsburg. There's all kinds of empty parcels. There's all kinds of interesting developments on the state housing front, with the fourplex models, where we could, to go to an investor and say, to a group of investors and say, we are confident that this particular parcel, investing in this parcel would, for reasons X, Y, and Z, will deliver the outcome. That's the challenge for sure. If you recall, on our governing board, one of the key elements of that board is an investor, someone who has the investment chops, right? So we need someone who can come to that board and help us develop those acquisition guidelines, develop those, help us sharpen the pitch, frankly, so that we can look, find that parcel, that property opportunity, and make a really strong case to the investment community that says, yeah, because we got these people on the board saying yes, this is a strong case. So yeah, we do, and that is actually an area of the board that we really are, two areas of the board of our board that we really are focusing on filling, which is number one, that kind of investment experience, investment development experience, and also fundraising. So those are two. If you know of anybody, that's where we could really use some help to to address exactly your concern.
Yeah. So, and I would agree, as far as city support is concerned, the staffing levels to keep supporting in the way that Stephen has recommended. I think that makes sense. As far as us putting out money, I would want to see like a budget and a plan and all of that. Specifically, what would it do? And you know, what would we hope it would do? I get that you need that infrastructure for for a new nonprofit, but I think to just look to the city to fund it doesn't. We need to know how and why. So that's where I would want to see some more, structure around that kind of a request.
100%.
Yeah, because we do have limited resources for this, and we do have some housing issues that we're trying to do as well. But I don't want to sound negative, because I think this is amazing and wonderful. So yeah.
So those are completely valid concerns of that, and we're already putting together a budget as we speak. So we're with you.
Great, thank you for all you guys.
Councilmember Kelly.
Is it your plan that the housing that would get developed is sold to individual homeowners, or is it a land trust model where the land is retained and the structures are sold, or is it a rental model?
All the above. I mean, honestly, we want to be flexible, right? Whatever is going to pencil out, right? So when we were looking at the 1010 University, right, my original thought was, oh gosh, 28 units of 120/160 MI. You'd think that's like market rate. You think that would actually work? Well, no, it didn't. And in that model, we could have, the way that the numbers were working out is, you'd have to take the land out of the equation entirely and get to a really aggressive construction cost of like $400 a square foot, which is not realistic, by the way, in this economy, right? It's much more than that. Those two combinations have to be in place in order to hit 160 AMI for the 28 units, right? So in that model, it would definitely be, let's say we could get it to 400, the land would still be out of the equation. So there'd still be a land some sort of a land trust model, right? In that, for that particular pilot project, right? There are other, so that's one example, right? There's another startup, one of the startups that I mentioned which is in the Turner Labs cohort. It's called Jubilee. And what they do is it's like a hybrid of land trust with for-profits. They actually have investors who will buy the land and keep that land separate from the development, and then the owners would then own the land and then pay back buy back that land over time, so that it's like a hybrid thing. It's not completely land trust, not completely.
Got it.
So there are all kinds
All you had to say was it could be rental, for sale, or a land trust. I totally understand that there is a universe of options around housing.
About this, so I'm trying to,
I agree with Councilmember Mitchell that seeing a budget proposal, and I think specifically looking at, the operational costs and the startup costs that you're talking about from the nonprofit perspective, what it is specifically that you'd be asking the city to commit to. I believe the Measure S funds for affordable housing, the ballot language was really specific about what it can go towards. So I think before that item came back to us, I would just ask our city attorney to review the limitations on Measure S, because you're talking about 120 to 160 AMI, which we know is housing that's affordable, but is not capital A, capital H, affordable housing 120 and below, which we do often have limitations on. So I think that we need housing at all levels of all incomes in this community of all types, but not sure. That would just be more of an internal, what source of funds could we potentially use to support this effort? Definitely think that there is a need for this type of nonprofit model for all the reasons that you suggested. I do think that you are mindful of who are the right, what hats need to be worn around the table, especially someone who has a finance background, obviously people who have developed before, people who have constructed before, and not just built one house one time, but people who have built hundreds, if not thousands of units. Being a part of this process, I think, will be critical, because you learn from each one of those times that you develop. And we want people to really, while a pilot is a fun idea, if we're using public money, we want to make sure, and I'm sure your investors will feel the same way, that if people are investing in this process, they don't want it to be like hey, we've never done this before, but we all obviously have great intentions here. I think people want to be assured that this is going to yield the housing outcomes that people are hoping for in the community, and we want to make sure it's set up for as much success as possible. So I think ensuring that the right technical skills are around the table for your board or for those decision makers would be important. And then I also think representatives of the community that is here in Healdsburg, we know a third of our community identifies as Latino. We know that a huge portion of our low-income population, people who are desperate for housing, having people participate in the process, not just what kind of housing do we think people need, but the kind of housing that people who need housing can say they need, and having some agency in that, I think, would be important. And that's always a difficult thing to ask people who are overworked and underpaid to volunteer time to get involved in an effort. So that's not an easy nut to crack, but just something to be mindful of. But all that to be said, I think this is an amazing effort. Clearly something that we need in the community. I think there's a lot of different models that exist in a lot of other places. I know you've done a lot of research about it. And I think just the entitlements component of it, even if you weren't to take it all the way to development, but to work on entitlements and then partner with a developer who then could build the units and sell the units, I think that would still provide a really great benefit. That could be something y'all could consider if the cost of construction and raising those additional funds were becoming prohibitive to actually yield the housing units, that you could in fact do the process, identify the land, go through the entitlement process, work in partnership with the planning department, but then turn over entitled land, sell it, but with constraints on it, and do it again. And I think that could also be a value to the community, especially for lots that we see like 1010 University, where someone could come in, I think someone bought it. So whoever bought it could just build one mega mansion on that lot. And that very well could be what may happen there. So being proactive in identifying those lots that exist that are developable, which is not that many in this community, and entitling them in a way that's actually going to yield the type of housing we need, as opposed to 2 mega mansions, would be really helpful, I think, to envision infill development like Matheson Street, where you see a variety of different housing types in a neighborhood. The market won't yield the kind of housing we need, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. And so I welcome this disruption in the market to try to solve our housing problems. Thanks.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, this is great seeing it, and getting involved in housing and seeing Measure O and all the complexities around housing. And I think if we can get around the AMI talk of real dollars, because I think that's part of the problem. When we're talking $158,000 is not in the scope of people working nowadays, is not rich. And getting that out there, so it's not like, oh, we're trying to build homes for the wealthy. That's not what we're trying to do. But when you hear AMI, you have no idea what that is, and I love that you talked about the housing calculator. I mean, that is a dose of reality right there. When you start looking at a house and you start playing around with parking and everything, it's an educational tool. And I think that's really what's going to need is the buy-in. I mean, it's great to see the support here, but it only takes a few people to say, nah, it's for the rich, or nah, I don't like that. It's too tall, or so it's really understanding of why something looks the way it is, and when you're planning to go forward is going to be a lesson I learned. And also I think it's going to be important that it's the end product that we're trying to get to. And, one of my first jobs written on the door was, X says it takes dough to make bread. And it's very important that we have the community that can come together to bring the ingredients. It's not like somebody is putting in the yeast and they're going like, I want the biggest piece when it's done. It's understanding that there are good-hearted people. The Foley Center is an example of people that can put money into it. And everybody's not out to make $1 million. They're out to make a mark. There are just some people that really want to do good for their community. And I hope that we can have things like with, maybe a donate one when a parent passes away or you have an estate here that you could donate to this fund. Because we don't have a lot of people that kids are in town and they're going to live in that parent's house. So, getting something like that, some buy-in and really education, I think this is a really great product, and I really appreciate you citizens taking this together, because so many times people want to go, oh, well, council came up with this. No, this is a project that's coming from our community, that our community is seeing. They saw our council, we tried and we weren't able to do it. And you're like stepping up to really make this work. And I think that that's a really important issue to get out there, that this is our community trying to come up with housing for our community. And as Councilmember Kelly said, the option of having to purchase is just invaluable to a startup family, because that really sets a generational tone that can happen. So thank you for working on this, and I look forward to seeing what you bring back.
Mayor Herod, can I just say one quick thing?
Sure, yeah.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for a number of you. We haven't seen you in city chambers in a very long time. Please don't be strangers. We really welcome our local community to be here and participate in this process. It's lovely to see you all here, and it is great to know what you've been doing behind the scenes, bringing this forward and together, and it's really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Agreed. So I just had one question, and that's one of the benefits of going last, is all the good questions have come out. So thank you, everybody. Great round of questions. And you mentioned briefly some of the resources you've tapped into, and your report certainly shows a lot of insight into a lot of different aspects of what's going on here. Can you kind of just give us a flyover on some of the conversations you've had with various people and entities that have brought you to this point?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned a bunch of startups. So as a local VC funder here, who's also a avid participant in the farmers market zucchini races. He's very civic-minded, but also hard-nosed investor. Connected me with now I'm blanking on the name of the 3D printed housing startup. So he knows a guy, and I got a call into that organization. So the context, the type of people we have in Healdsburg that can connect us to these organizations is also kind of unique to this situation. 3D printed housing startup. We talked to several of the Turner Labs cohorts. So there's Infilla, the planning software startup. There is Jubilee that has the kind of the land, the pseudo land trust model. You've got there's I'm blanking on the name of this. They do, it's a community-based aggregator of housing. There's another startup. We've got Generation Housing. We've been talking to them. We've been talking to numerous developers in town and real estate lawyers. Mark Gladden is one of those. We've talked to, there's actually a California Land Trust Network organization that's their whole thing is land trusts. And so they have a huge organization with throughout the state with lots of different resources and technical assistance they could offer. There's, you name it. There's a local land trusts. There's one in Sebastopol that we're connecting with. I mean, it's a lot of different angles from a lot of different perspectives is really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Richard, you have something to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this isn't a fantasy. In 2003, there was no Healdsburg Forever. And it was a $500,000 grant that got matched that created what we now know to be a nonprofit that's distributing hundreds of thousands of dollars every year and has an endowment. And the Foley Pavilion is another example of the rich interest in the community of people who have the means to support something like a land trust. And similarly, when I moved here, there was no healthcare foundation. And there's another entity that is supporting the entire community with benefiting from donors in the community who have supported it. So I think as we move forward and build a model that we can show people there, or find an opportunity that is in its instance exciting, we will find people who are willing to support this idea. So I think it's well grounded in this community. It wouldn't necessarily be that way in another community. So I think our history tells us that the opportunity is here and the resources exist, and we just have to excite people with what could happen. That's all.
That's a really great point. And I, you know, I never tire of saying how Healdsburg really is such a generous community at all levels. I mean, whether you have money or not, that people really pitch in and care. And I think the people that you're bringing together reflect that. So, you know, Richard's been in the trenches with housing for a long time, and you're really lucky to have the benefit of his history. And, you know, I know Gretchen personally, her values. I'm really glad to see you here and that you've stepped up, and I know you'll inspire others to do the same. Thank you. And there's others. I don't want to go down the list exactly, but Joe, your leadership here has been really remarkable. I think the community trusts you and they respect you, and you really are the right person to have the reins here. And so we're really lucky that you've got us to this point. And so I think this is the beginning of a really important partnership, like Richard's illustrated. You know, we'll look back on this night and go, this is the beginning of something really important for this town. So I'm really inspired. I'm looking forward to the next phase and seeing what we can do that's a little more concrete. Right now we have inspiration, great ideas, great people, and certainly a sense that the community is coming together for something that we really need. So thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity that you're presenting to us, and thank you for the really good insights. I think there's a lot of wise and smartly critical challenges for us. So we'll take that to heart.
All right. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Stephen. All right. We're going to move on to council reports of matters of interest occurring since the previous meeting. Councilmember Kelly.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Councilmember Mitchell.
Nothing to report.
Oh, easy. Okay. Moving right along.
Something to report.
Yeah. Hit me.
I attended NCPA's LNR and commission meeting and executive committee meeting in Roseville last week.
Thank you.
I've got a bit to report. Russian River Watershed Association board meeting. The Steelhead Festival is this weekend from 9 to 5. Earth Day cleanup is coming to Healdsburg April 22nd. The DEA drug take back is this coming Saturday, April 25th. So we'll be able to do that. I think we still have the drop off at CVS and the police department. Okay, it's there 24/7. You don't have to wait till the 22nd. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, they are really getting amazing feedback on the When the Time Comes program. Since we announced it here on council, they have had outreach from not only here in the city, residents lining up to wanting to support that, but throughout the state and the country on that one. Most of the trips that they are planning this year are selling out in 4 days. So we're really getting senior buy-in from that one. March 16th, they have their St. Patty Day meal at 4:30. So that's what I have to report.
Thank you. Did I get everybody? That's right. A couple passed. I'm going to expand on matters of interest just to say that I'm interested in remembering that this is a city that does not take hate speech lightly. And it's really painful to hear it in City Hall, and to know that any one of us is a recipient of it is unacceptable. And I just wanted to say that it's hard to stay quiet and respect people's rights. And I'm glad we did that. But it's just worth saying that you know, that it's painful when that sort of speech happens. And so I just want to acknowledge that. The ride-along, I already mentioned that. That was really great. How many people have done a ride-along? I'm just kind of curious. You, not yet? It's really.
I did one
eye-opening.
for Meals on Wheels.
Okay. It was really eye-opening. Thank you once again for that opportunity. I really do want to do it again, maybe at night. I visited the museum, and if you're of a certain age, you're going to love it. And even if you aren't, they did such a great job of taking you back to the 70s in Healdsburg. It's just a fantastic exhibit. They always do a good job, but I'm urging everybody to go check it out. It's really super cool, a lot of fun and meaningful. Girls basketball team, hooray, amazing. We're going to bring them in for a proclamation. And yeah, and the wheels are turning on that already. And then I went to the activist fair, and just to say that it's great to see there's so many people in our community who are committed to making a better world in their own particular ways. I won't go into all the details there, but it was a good turnout for that and a lot of great discussion. Councilmember Edwards was there with me as well. And I think that's all I've got. We're going to adjourn the meeting at